Swivl Sessions, interviews with field service entrepreneurs. Get insights and strategies from those who took the leap and risked it all to start their own home service companies. It's not often that you find a business owner with two separate businesses and really two separate mindsets. One, the total destruction and carnage of stump grinding with the artistry of carpentry. But Chris Cooney, CWC Handyman, and Uncle Grumpy Stumps. Jeremy, what do you got?
Yeah, this guy is doing a lot of things. And my favorite part about Chris is his energy. After 23 years of running CWC, he shifts a gear because he sees an opportunity in the stump grinding business and comes up with Uncle Grumpy. So I think it's amazing that energy and enthusiasm he has, and he brings it to all of his jobs. I'm sure of that. And his words, he's born a builder, and I just loved hearing him say that.
That was great.
So that was a good one.
If I had to describe Chris in two words, it would be fearless integrity, because you have to be fearless to start your own business. We've learned that in all these talks that we've done. To start a business, grow it, make it a success, see an opportunity, start another business, go into the hole to get that business going, and then make it a success. I mean, that's just off the charts confidence. And I love it when I said, well, that was kind of a risk, wasn't it? And he goes, Tyson, sometimes you have to go into the hole to grow a little bit. And that was just a great way to put it. And his integrity, just with the work that he does, and he loves his work, he loves his family, loves his country. How many times did he mention how great of a country we live in, to have the opportunities? It's good to have a patriot on the show. Chris Cooney, CWC Handyman, and Uncle Grumpy Stump. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Swivl Sessions, where we do the deep dive into field service entrepreneurship. Now, I'm excited to get to our guest today, but before I do, unfortunately, I have to introduce my co-host. He works from home, Chris, and I think he works from home so he can do these podcasts in his boxers. Say hello to Jeremy.
That's not true. That's not true. Hey, how you doing, Chris? Hey,
go ahead and stand up for us.
Take a bow.
So, Chris, I know you've had the pleasure with chatting with Tyson before this Swivl session recording, but did you also know he's Swivl's customer service guru? He can tackle just about anything except pollen. Seriously, he walks into the office every morning like he's just finished watching The Notebook for the 10th time this week. Tyson!
Come on, man. That's worse than making fun of my fear of clowns. The allergies get me. Like I said earlier, excited to have this next guest on. We love any of those business owners that have multiple businesses, and this guy has got it down pat. His first business, CWC Handyman, covers just about every aspect of fields and home service with deck installs. I think I saw a reverse board and batten on one of those, but it's also cool when they have businesses that spin off into other businesses, and Chris has been able to do that with a stump removal business called Uncle Grumpy Stumps. So very, very happy to have Chris Cooney on the show with us. Chris, welcome. How are things over there in Pennsylvania? Where in Pennsylvania are you, by the way?
So I'm in Milford, Pennsylvania. So we're on the corner of Jersey and New York. So what's nice, you can see my background. This is my front yard. It's a pretty rural area, but I can get to the city areas of Jersey and New York State pretty quickly. Within 20 minutes, I can be in either state. So I can do all three states. So I license myself in all three states. So I'm not limited to just Pennsylvania being on the border. So it's a really great location. It's very peaceful life here. I'm on a cul-de-sac because I got kids, and I'm just lucky to live in the kind of country that affords me the right to be able to create my own jobs. I memean,
I love
well
it.
said. Well said. I love
it. A great service area too. You've got a nice bunch of places you can hit out there where you're located. Well, good. All right, so let's get started. Let's get to the meat of it. I like to ask guys, what's your background? So when I say that, what were you doing before you started your own business? You don't have to go all the way back to grammar school, but you can kind of keep it as an adult. What kind of led you to where you are? What were you up to?
I don't want to incriminate you with anything either. So
right. I was a messy baby, and so I mean, yeah. If you do go back long enough, I was just born a builder. I was born a builder. I mean, when I was little, I could take like sets of different things, and I could build things that adults couldn't build, and they were like, "What is up with this kid?" So that's And coming up through high school, I was actually, they weren't thinking I was going to make very much of myself because I wasn't very much a conformist. I was more the kind of a guy that was going to create. And the guy who creates doesn't necessarily listen in school and sit still and do what he's told. You know what I mean? So I had kind of coming out of high school, I said to myself, geez, I don't know what I want to do. And what ended up happening was I graduated early from my shop at Sussex County Vocational, which was HVAC. I never worked a day in my life in it. I got a job. The guy says to me, you know, if you want to be a carpenter for the summer, it's almost like working out, you know, so you kind of make money and work out. Well, that's 30 years later, and I've been in business for 23 years. So, but what got me into business was for about there's about a 10-year apprenticeship, which I went about 8 years. And I started to notice, you know, the contractors pulling in, telling the people, hey, I got 20 years, 25 years experience, right? I'm going to do X for you. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do that for you. And then as the time's rolling on, the years are going by, I'm saying to myself, you know, he's not doing anything. I'm doing it all. I'm the one from start to finish. I'm doing this all, and I'm making an hourly wage.
That was my question. Is that the aha moment where you were like, wait, nice.
However, I would say to anybody who's young and they're going to go into business is that you should I could do all the work by the time I started my business in 1999. Okay. But what I didn't know and what I wasn't good at was business, accounting, estimating, those kinds of things. So I got hurt a little bit in the beginning. You know, I took a bath on a couple of jobs. I was lucky to make enough jobs that are where I was able to stay in business. But, you know, luckily I did do an 8-year apprenticeship. So I you know, when I ran into troubles and stuff like that, I could do better, but nothing like today, where today, you know, everything is calculated into a job. There's a little bit of material money. There's plenty of profit. I don't have to run to the customer every time something comes. Hey, I found this behind the wall. You know, we just do it because we know what's probably going to be behind the wall at this point.
And when you say you took a bath, was it just like you were just doing a blanket estimate or throwing a number that sounded good for some jobs and not really?
Yeah, in the beginning, I just didn't know how to estimate right. So, and then I try to get just the right amount of material, say. But what happens when you get just the right amount of materials, you don't have the right amount of material because you're going to have about 10% waste. So when you do material, you do about 15%. That way, if there is a little bit left at the end, you can bring it back and get a few bucks. Or if something comes up, you don't have to run to the customer and look foolish and say, hey, I ran into this and I need more money. And that's what kind of builds clientele. I have clientele these days. I mean, this is the only advertising. I don't really pay for advertising. I'm so well known at this point. I'm booked for 3 months solid.
That's great.
Other than Facebook, and I have Facebook.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah, you know, but there was some trial and error. There definitely was early on where I found myself in the truck going, oh my God, I got to run back to Home Depot, or I got to run back to the lumberyard. And now that's time and that's a gas, and I'm not getting anything done because I'm because I didn't order enough. So for anybody who's a young person, I don't care if it's landscaping, plumbing, electricity, IT, any of these, you know, sorts of fields, I would say, even if you just took a 6-month course just on how to keep your book straight, how to estimate properly, you would save yourself a lot of time and effort. And, you know, you'd rise to where I am now a lot quicker than I did. So that would be my friendly advice.
That's great advice. We talk about costs and analysis all the time in our circles, and it's very important to know your costs, because how do you price a job without knowing your costs? Or
how do you lower your costs without knowing what your costs are?
That's right. It's something you've got that down now, so that's great. Yeah. A little trial and error, but good, yeah. Okay. Well,
jumping in when you first started the business, Chris, you telling us kind of some of those hurdles. I was just wondering, we talked about expectations a lot, and you have some expectations going in, and were they met, or did you have to kind of see as you go how those things came about?
Well, the expectations in the beginning tend to change very quickly. Of course, in the beginning, you know, you want to be where the guy was that was taking the checks while you were doing the work, right? But you still have to grow your business. Now, you make your money when you are small, or you make your money when you are bigger. But you don't make your money when you're growing your business, because when you're growing your business, you're buying tools, you're buying equipment, you're taking the profits and you're putting it back into the company. You're making sure you have the proper insurances, licensing in place. So the growing portion of it was tough, you know. But once you're there and you're, say, at that bigger state, you're charging good money, you know. I mean, I created this job in 1999, and I mean, I have 5 mouths to feed. My wife doesn't make very much money. She works, you know, it's basically me. And it's on a job that I created, and it's because I invested early that I have what I have now. I mean, I just finished a job. I don't want to use numbers, but I mean, the board and batten job. And a lot of contractors didn't want to take that because it was high up in the air. You had to have some guts and you had to have some gumption to do it, or they wanted to charge a ridiculous amount of money because the guy wasn't going to do it himself. He's going to bring somebody in and whatnot. And I have off today because I can, because I'm going to hang.
It's
I'm
good to be
taking
the
my
boss.
little girls fishing today, and we're going to,
Awesome.
I'm going to power wash my RV back there, and have some relaxation too. But it does take that initial, when you're growing, where you're going to have to put a little bit of money into it so that later on you've got the equipment, you've got the stuff, and now you're just printing money.
And a lot of sweat equity too.
A lot of sweat equity. Well, in my business,
Yeah.
a lot of sweat equity. And I would say in any business, because what I've experienced is, like, when I was younger, I would say, oh, well, that guy doesn't sweat, and then you start to see, well, look at the hours the guy puts in a different industry, right? I'd say, oh, well, he doesn't swing a hammer like me. But in a different industry, maybe he's doing 14 hours a day. You know what I mean? So there's no easy way. There's definitely a way. And I mean, like we said before, to be in a country that allows you to actually create your own position, your own lucrative position.
It's awesome.
What a country.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We talk to guys like you all the time, and I just am always amazed at the stories we hear and the opportunities that are out there if you just look for them, and just create them for yourself. It's pretty cool. Hey, so, you'd mentioned some unforeseen hurdles that you kind of tackled early on, such as learning accounting and the books and kind of costing jobs and pricing them right on estimates. Any other things that maybe popped up? And some things we hear a lot of is maybe some marketing or advertising mistakes or things you didn't see in the beginning when you were just trying to get your name out. Anything like that?
Well, I can say that, like, one of the things that I did early on was I had on my desk, I would have a big calendar, and I would write down what I was doing every day on that calendar. And then the next year, I would have the previous year's calendar, and I would look to see what I was doing, what the weather was, where the economy, whatever it was, right? And I could compare. So, for instance, the last week of summer, right before school, you better have it booked, because you're not getting to book anything new. Parents are out getting pencils and books and papers and getting the kids ready, new shoes and stuff. You're not going to book nothing. So the first year I found out, and I was, the next year I was bound and determined to be booked for that.
Be ready.
Another one would be December. Nobody's going to have you. And now in December, generally in Pennsylvania, your exterior work is gone.
Oh, yeah.
So you're doing kitchens, you're doing bathrooms, tile, windows, doors, things of that nature. But nobody wants you in the house in December. So you better have a nest egg ready by late November to get me through. Right. And then tax season and whatnot.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is that I learned that a DBA does not pay. Go get your LLC. I don't care. Listen, I can do them now myself for like $160. But if you paid $350 or $450 to an accountant, let's say, to set up an LLC, okay? Did you realize that the guy that punches a clock pays 30%, right? So if he makes $100, he takes home 70, right? If an LLC makes $100, we take home 100. We take 1,000, it's 1,000. Okay, 10,000, it's 10,000. And at the end of the year, with write-offs, depending on what you want to do, some years we, like this year, we're talking about maybe having my wife's mother come from Spain to be with the girls for some time. So we didn't write off as much. But there are years that you can write, and legally, absolutely 100% legally, you can write off enough to where you actually may get a tax return. And people say, well, that's unfair. Well, it's not unfair, because the federal government is incentivizing you, the small business, to do business.
Yeah, you were talking.
Right. So the guy that makes, pays 10,000 gets 5,000 back. Well, the government sees 5,000. The guy that puts 285,000 through his account pays tax on all the, for my gas guzzling truck, every bit of materials, all the payroll tax, all the taxes that my subcontractors pay tax on their tax, the tax on the food, the tax on the extra. You got to have the fancy, work boots with the steel toe. You got to buy all these things, the blades for the saws, all the upkeep on the equipment, and you're paying tax on all of that. The federal government's going to see, $25,000-$30,000 tax out of me rather than the $5,000 when I was punching a clock. So is it unfair that me, Chris Cooney, doesn't necessarily have to pay tax? I don't know that the government cares, because when their bottom line is better, it's better, and that's.
We're going to make sure the government doesn't see this part of the podcast, though.
Yeah.
They know me pretty well by now.
Yeah, right. It's been a few years. Speaking of that, so you've been in business for, you say 23 years? Did I get that right?
Yeah, this is my 20th.
Okay. And then you kind of scratched on your base. Your customers are just word of mouth. Is that pretty much where you're getting everybody? It's just a group that kind of ebbs and flows. It's the same people, and they just kind of bring in someone new to the fold. Like, who's your customer base?
Yeah, I mean, I have Facebook, and my certain jobs I'll put on Facebook, but I haven't paid for advertising in probably 8 years because I'm so well known at this point. You see, the thing too is integrity is so important for small business. You know, Walmart might get away with a few things. Uncle Grumpy Stumps and CWC has to be integral to the T.
Integrity.
So I had a customer call me this morning, and I was so worried about making sure that my numbers were right. Lose you again?
Nope.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was so worried about making sure that my numbers were right that I had actually missed the fact that one of the extras that I did. So there was an extra $1,500, and he called me and said, "Hey, I think I owe you the extra $15 for this." And so this is how much these people like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people that don't
They're looking
like
out. They're looking out for you.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't call you up and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I owe you more money." But they know, you know, they were there. They saw me up on the ladders. They saw me, you know, they saw the sweat, and they saw me, you know, take a few things down, say that's not good enough yet, and really make it right. They saw me fabricating tongue to groove to tongue, so that I could, you know, use the less and get more for their money, you know, allocating their money in a good way. And this is a customer, this is a client. And that's the key to small business is there's a customer's one time, and a client is many. Every time they have a need, a client will call you. A customer will call you once, you're done.
I never thought of it like that.
So I think,
go ahead.
I was going to say the client is the lifeblood of the small business.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Speaking of small business, so I haven't had the pleasure of speaking to you before this. You have two businesses, it looks like. So you have two businesses. Can you explain the two different businesses? People watching maybe in your area might want to call you for some sort of service.
Sure. So my first business is the CWC Handyman Service, LLC. We talked already about the importance of the LLC. So it's all home remodeling. I mean, to list a few things, I don't do roofing because that's a specific insurance that I don't carry. And if you're a roofer, you're a roofer. But you know, siding, doors, windows, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, sheetrock, spackle, basements, just about anything around residential. Now I have licensed electricians and plumbers when the need arises. We're a small business. You know, I have one employee. It's my son. And then I have my subcontractors. I even have an IT guy. Some people, believe it or not, they want us to come in and have, you know, their surround sound all put in with the smart TVs and everything when we're done doing stuff. So we even have that.
We've been in business. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've been in business since '99.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. Are you seeing security? Anyone ask for security setups, that sort of thing? Cameras? Are you?
Not in a while. Not in a while.
I'm just curious. I know because the world's somewhat going to hell in a handbasket as far as we all
moving in that direction.
Yeah, so thought maybe it's something you might get into, or you're into that. So
you definitely got my interest.
That's why we're here. And then, sorry, what else do you have going on? What's the other business?
So I had a friend who, during COVID, he had applied for the PPP. I forget what it stands for, but basically, he had gotten a nice chunk of money, and he was doing the remodeling as well. So he was a friend of mine. So he when something was too far away, he'd throw it for me. When something was too far for me to do, I'd throw it to him, and we work together and keep the
simpatico.
World.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so he had a customer call him and say, "Hey, I know it's not in your genre what you do, but I have this tree. It's hanging over my house. Is there any chance you might want to come and just see if you can take it down for me?" And when he saw the numbers of what he could do, like what it cost to take the tree down, he said to himself, "I'm going to the tree business." He took a course. The government paid for it because they wanted, you know, everybody to try to, you know, do new things. And they had that, you know, money was thrown around like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he took his PPP money and he went out and he financed some equipment. I mean, he has last year, he did $1.2 million in business. This year, he's slated for $1.8 million. And so what happens with the tree guys is they, you know, his bills are, I think his payments and whatnot is about $35,000 a month. So about $400,000 a year is his bills just for the business. And what happens is they get to a certain point. You've got a 170-foot boom truck. You've got a chipper that can chip logs 24 inches round.
Wow.
All your men, all your blowers, all your chainsaws, all your equipment. And what happens is all the tree guys run out of money before they get the stump grinder. So now I have a best friend who's doing millions of dollars a year in trees making stumps, and now I'm finding other tree companies have the same problem where they spent $750 to $1 million in equipment, and they've got payments on them. They're not buying another $65,000 stump grinder. They're just not pulling out of pocket. So I saw the opportunity. I said, well, if nobody's got it and these guys are renting it, it's going to cost them $400 a day to rent it, and then they're going to have to do it. Aren't I the guy to say, hey, I'll come in and do it? You can make a little money on me doing it. I'll get my price, and so now that's grown into a fairly lucrative business, 6-figure business.
I love it
as well.
Let me ask you. So, as far as like numbers go, both businesses are growing. It sounds like annually. Which one will make you more money than this year or last year? Which one is more lucrative for you right now?
Well, I'm in the process of growing Uncle Grumpy Stumps.
Okay, gotcha.
CWC is established.
Yeah.
CWC is 3 to 4 months out. I'm booked right now.
That's great.
But I'm growing Uncle Grumpy Stumps. I picked up the machine. It's my neighbor. I picked up the machine. The trailer.
Tell him we said hello.
I will. A nice guy. And there was people. Let me tell you too that, and if you're out there, okay, you're going to get some naysayers. People said to me, "Now wait a minute, you're doing good in this business. Why are you going to go into another business? You're going to spend nearly $70,000 on equipment that you're going to make payments on for the next 5 or 6 years. Why are you doing this? Like you're going to go back in the hole. Well, sometimes you do have to go back in the hole a little bit to grow. Sometimes you got to feel the pain.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
To grow. So let me tell you, that was 2.5 years ago on a 5-year loan. In 2.5 years from now, I'm printing money with that machine.
Yeah.
That machine's paid off.
What's your?
I go out, I make
$1,000, but you're still charging for it though. You're still charging for it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
That's where our owner Rob, who I wish he could be here, but that's kind of when he cracked the code on. He kind of went into debt buying all of this equipment for his plumbing company, and that's how he grew it to the point where we've talked about. Is he realized the benefits of owning your own equipment.
Yeah.
What do you
think?
If you don't mind giving a ballpark of what you think, what's your expected gross with the Uncle Grumpy this year?
I think Uncle Grumpy should make me about. This is after, because I'm paying, I don't know, like $13.50 a month. So after cost and fuel and insurance, I should probably make about $75.
Okay, so that's your net. That's what you'll make after you. That's what you're taking home, basically.
That's what I'll basically net. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And
not a bad side hustle.
Yeah.
Right there.
Exactly.
And CWC, is there do you have a ballpark on that? You don't have to give specifics, but kind of a general idea.
Well, the funny thing is like in business, it's hard to know what you actually make.
Yeah.
Because,
right.
I can make my business pay for my truck, pay for my machine, pay for my clothes and my boots and my stuff, and write it all off.
Yeah.
Or I can not write that stuff off. Let's say I want to buy a second home. Well, then I'm going to need 2 years of higher income, right? But that's the beauty of an LLC, and the federal government knows you're doing it. I know you make the government joke before, but they know what you're doing. And hey, they're not going to say no to more money if you're in a year like I'm in, where we're trying to get grandma here from Spain.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, oh no, what happened? They're going to say, hey, great. Their hands are out, But yeah, I would think that, overall, if I put 125 through the account for Uncle Grumpy Stumps, I'd probably see about 75. And if I put 250 with CWC, then I'd probably see about 160. The overhead is higher.
Right.
Yeah.
So we love talking, obviously, in our background, we love talking about technology, Chris, and love hearing how technology, not just in the equipment that you're using for the businesses, but on the office and the IT side, how technology is helping you grow your businesses.
Well, I recently met these two fellas that helped me out a little bit, Jeremy and Tyson.
Hey.
And
nice.
They gave me some software that is better than the software that I'm using. And I'm still trying to work out, all the things, because there's so much that you can do. But what I'm finding is once you acclimate to that software, it's going to organize my business better than I can. And I like to think that I'm the kind of guy, I want to believe that there's nothing I can't do on my own or in my head. But now I can apply that to the software that's been given to me through Swivl, and I'm planning on growing both businesses and organizing both businesses, and maybe I don't have to work as hard on the end of like the organization. Right now my stuff is old, and the stuff that you guys have supplied to me, I spent the last hour and a half acclimating to, And
Excellent.
it really seems like that's what I'm going to use moving forward. The CRM, I mean, I'm a lot of paper, because if you remember, I started in '99, so
We're of the same generation, Chris. All
right.
three of us. We're the last
I
group of
got
feral
paper
kids
everywhere.
raised. Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
we're the
exactly. But I I do have to join the 21st century, and get with it, because you got to change with the times. It's the other thing about business. You got to change with the times. If you don't change with the times going to change without you, and that's it. And I have young ones too, so I got a long way to go. Yeah, I mean, that technology is going to be something that I'm going to implement over the next year and really get myself acclimated with it. I'm going to move myself from the old technology to that new technology, and I do see an opportunity there. There's an opportunity to organize the business. There's an opportunity to make life a little easier. I noticed, like, within the, just while I was messing around in there, I'm putting in customers into the CRM. How many times over the years has a paper blown out the window of the truck while I'm steaming down?
If you're owner operator,
yeah,
if you're busy and you're actually doing a lot of the work, you are busy. You are not stopping. So
a lot on your plate.
Easy to lose track
plate.
of something for sure. So
yeah.
Well, great. That's great.
That's saved there forever, and that's what I was saying to my wife. Look, we got to do a little better here. So she, she's coming home tonight, and we're going to sit down together and look at it. My wife's a little bit younger than me. I'm proud.
She's the brains behind the organization.
I got a beautiful house because she made me do it.
You're the
I love it.
She's the brains. We get it.
And I love the flag over your shoulder too, Chris. Just get
awesome.
have Old Glory out there. Thank you for that, and I love to hear that you're doing the acclimation part of Swivl, because I think it is kind of like once you get into it, it makes you want to get into it a little bit more, and you realize how simple it is. But I wanted to throw this out to you because you're doing so well with two businesses. What are the goals moving forward for Uncle Grumpy and
I tell you, for CWC, I would love to actually phase that out and get into more of the big machinery. And the reason why is because CWC is very, very physical. The 50-year-old guy rolling around in the attic, a 120-degree attic, or a 2-foot crawl space with a 20-pound sledgehammer. It may look nice behind me, but come on out to the job site someday. There's sawdust in your eyes and insulation in the air, and you're breathing and stuff like that. So, I'd like to grow Uncle Grumpy Stumps a little bit. And I made it a funny name because, people, they look out in the yard and the wife's been yelling at them for 2 years. When are you going to get rid of that stump? When are you going to get rid of that stump? You know what I mean? And Uncle Grumpy Stumps, that's the answer,
It's already we've had a lot of awesome names. I don't know if you've looked at our podcast, but we've got Pup Poop. We've got, we've
had all kinds.
All kinds
of
a good one, but I love it. Yeah, this is you've now surpassed Pup Poop to the top of the level.
Yeah.
But I love. So you're talking about phasing out. I mean, is your son having any interest in that, or
I wish I could say he was.
Okay.
I wish I could say was.
Hey, he's the world is for him to find out. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he does. He works with me now, but he's getting a CDLA, and I think he's going to go that direction. My father was a CDLA, and I, maybe I made the mistake having him out there at 15 years old, sweating in the sun or in the freezing cold.
Could be
at times.
Yeah.
You scarred him.
Yeah, I might have scarred him a little bit. But, I don't think that CWC will ever fully go away because, when you get to the pinnacle of what you do, like I'll give you an example. So in Sparta, New Jersey, I'm well known for like oak and iron staircases. In Sparta, New Jersey is a very affluent neighborhood in New Jersey where, a house on, a 3-bedroom home on a half an acre is $800,000 to $1.5 million. These people, and when they, so when you go to do work, and believe me when I tell you, there are times I have to rack my brain, to make sure that this work is perfect. But when those calls come in and that kind of money is being thrown around, down in Bedminster, I did a couple of wine cellars out of mahogany, chilled wine cellars out of mahogany. If those kinds of jobs come in, I don't know that Uncle Grumpy Stumps can compete with that. So that's the kind of thing where we mount up the horses and we go.
Yeah. But that's you've got two different sides of your brain working, because Uncle Grumpy Stumps is just, seek and destroy. And those other jobs are you're a craftsman, you're an artist and you're creating something from nothing. And I love that you have just the duality of that is awesome.
Yeah, well, so I mean, so in carpentry, carpentry is like being a real good boxer. You know what I mean? Like there's bangers, there's the Mike Tyson, but then there's the Muhammad Ali's who bang when they need to, but they float when they need to. They're fast when they need to. They think when they need to.
Or so Sugar Ray, Sugar Ray,
he's
one of them. Yeah.
I think pound for pound, the greatest boxer of all time, Sugar Ray Leonard.
We'll edit this out, but show me a better first round than Hagler Hearns.
Oh my God.
I mean, we used to go and rent that from the video store. Dempsey and I did. Buddy Jeremy knows, just for that first round, and then we would just be done with it and move on to Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
So, but to your point, I think that the fact that carpentry can sometimes be very finesse. And there's, it's trigonometry, it's geometry, you're thinking. But then there's also times when you're digging a footer 42 inches into the ground by hand, you know what I mean, where there's rock and you can't get a machine in there, and you've got a digging bar and a sledgehammer and you're breaking rocks. So that's very much like Uncle Grumpy Stumps, where I've run into inside of a stump this big, you've got a rock right in the center, and you're out there in the sun. I set up my canopy, which I have over me right now, over in the heat, and I'll be sitting there smashing that thing with a sledgehammer until it breaks, and then the breaker barring it out and stuff. So some of carpentry does,
gets rough.
Coincide with what we're doing with, you know what I mean. And plus, I'll be honest with you, I pay my son pretty well for Uncle Grumpy Stumps, and see, he likes the stumps because he doesn't have to think so much. He's a 20-year-old kid. He just, so he's pickaxing and
I told you I saw that machine, and it looks like it's fun to operate.
It is. So. And like you never heard such a sound when that thing starts.
Like the dead howling in Hades, probably.
Oh yeah. The first time I did it, I was like, it was the first time I did it with my machine. See, that was the other thing that I did, and this is important for people at home to hear if you're going into business. So when I went to go, I started off at the 24 horsepower, right? And my buddy says, no, you need at least the 38 horsepower. I got to the showroom and there was a 96 horsepower turbo diesel. It had 10 hours on it because it was a demo. I could buy it for the same as the 56 horsepower. So it was a no-brainer. So now I can go out, I can undercut a little bit because I can get so much done a day that I can make my money. So sometimes you gotta have like go for it and get the better equipment because like one guy says, oh, that's gonna be $600 for that stump. Well, it's gonna take him 4 hours. It's only gonna take me an hour and a half. I can do it for $400 on an hour and a half and get 5 more stumps in that day.
That's smart. That's a good way to do it.
Jeremy, it sounds like you and the Husqvarna.
Yeah. In Colorado? Yeah, that was crazy. Never again. Hey, Chris, what is the exit strategy? Have you gotten to the point where you've thought about once you build these up, are you trying to pass them down to somebody, your son, or are you selling? What are you thinking? What are your thoughts on that?
I think right now it's just full steam ahead. I'm at the point where I'm young enough and strong enough to do the work. I'm not feeling like so. And we have a family plan. My wife graduates in August with her master's. She's a teacher.
Nice.
She'll be making a little more money. But right now, really, I don't know that there's an exit strategy. I think there's a strategy to make enough to pay all the bills and invest the rest. But now we're taking monies that we're making from the companies. I want to look into investing more into I think AI is the future.
Right there. Give that man a cigar.
Yep.
Possibly send. You put a few $1,000 in there and 10 years from now, what do you got? You know what I mean? So it's nice to be at a point where I'm not just making the bills and able to take a family vacation and buy an RV, but now I can talk about investments that pay back. Really, that may be the end strategy maybe 10 years from now. But right now, the strategy is to take and invest profit into make money without me making the money.
Right.
Well, listen, we could talk forever, Chris, and we probably might have to stop recording, but for those people out there that are thinking about starting their own business, or they've wanted to start their own business, or they have an idea, and maybe not even necessarily a field service business, but someone that wants to work for themselves, what is some advice you would pass along to those people?
Fear not. No fear. There are going to be naysayers. When I started my business, I was in Sussex County, Branchville, New Jersey. And it was, oh, you have to be down in Bedminster. And I knew one thing. I had Sparta, and I knew that I had no competition. I looked at my family, or my business model started off for profit as, hey, if I'm doing, you got two kinds of jobs out here in the country. You got two types of contractors. You got a contractor who's a big company and they're tomahawking customers, and you got these guys that are, managed to register a truck and got a couple of hand tools. So there wasn't anybody who was really doing quality work in the middle. And in the middle in New Jersey, in this part of PA, you're making money. So don't believe the naysayers. There's so much benefit to owning an LLC and owning a small company. If you run it right, if every day you're thinking about what you have to do and you're accomplishing something every single day, you will make it. This is America. You will make it. And there are plenty of people, who have already made it who are going to need your services, because whatever you're going into is a lucrative business for somebody else. Then why can't you? Forget the naysayers. No fear. Go for it.
I mean, that makes me want to get out and just charge straight through the wall. Don't even go through the door. Well, a huge thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. It's obvious that you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, and it comes through in how well you built your two businesses. And for anybody out there in the greater Milford, Pennsylvania area that is looking to have any quality work done around their house, or any quality stumps disintegrated on their property, you would want to reach out to CWC Handyman or Uncle Grumpy Stumps, Chris Cooney, and you can find their information right here. Put your finger up, Chris.
Yeah.
Right there, yeah. And you're going to be working with a true expert in the field, and also someone that has integrity, and there's no price you can put on that. So, Chris, thank you for coming on and joining us on Swivl Sessions. We really do appreciate it.
That was a great one.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening or watching. Swivl's field service software is everything you need to run your field service business for free. Till next time, check us out at swivl.tech. That's SWIVL.tech.